It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at gearwebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at gearwebsites.com.
And welcome everybody to our end of the week wrap up, where normally we would go live about an hour ago, but I don't know what was going on, but eventually got it working here. So I wish I could say I took an hour nap, but instead I just lost a bunch of stuff, it turns out. So none of the posts that were being posted, do I have it as a draft? Maybe I didn't think about drafts. Do I have drafts? Oh, look at this. Wait a minute. Okay, good. Okay, good. What was I going to say? At least this Substack posts drafts, or holds drafts. So at least we got this part done. That's a lot of work. Not all of that much work, but some of it. So anyway, we lost a bunch of stuff here, trying to get the internet going, and now I'm whining about it. We'll move over here on the screen. Get rid of this little dog. Nobody wants to look at our puppy co-host over here. Has a little deal on. Let's get that deal off of there. Come on. I'm doing any stunts during the show. Whenever he's jumping out of helicopters and stuff, the crew chiefs always insist that he wear some kind of a harness. So when he's not doing any kind of work like that, he can take that thing off. Alright, so what am I trying to do here? I'm going to click on this, and we'll click on this. I was wondering what I've been swearing for the last hour about. Alright, so now we've got this up. And on every day of the week we try to go live, try to focus on things that matter, right? The things that our Second Amendment is focused on, not so much just the next thing or the current thing. So there's plenty of people doing that. So we're trying to keep a focus on things that might end the arguments that we've got going on right now, instead of keeping them going. Especially on this show, try to focus on the things that are focused on that. And say thanks, give some encouragement to the people that are doing good stuff, and raise the awareness, raise the flag about some stuff you might not have heard about. We try to summarize some of the things that have been going on as much as possible. So that there's the kind of a summary at the end of the week. So if you're trying to keep track, hopefully this show becomes one resource you can use to keep track of events as they're going by. And just to kind of keep track as we're all just kind of being aware of the news that gets constantly pushed at us like tides on a beach. And then, of course, we like to go live. So we appreciate the people that join us live, even though it's super late tonight. We do this show at midnight so that we can be awake for the people, or so that we're live for the people that are awake in the middle of the night, people that are resetting everything and cleaning everything and delivering everything, building everything, all the stuff that gets taken for granted by the people that have shows conveniently placed for them during the day when it's easy to do a show. Well, let's do shows and it's harder to do them, and thanks to the people that join us live. And thanks for participating in the interactive nature of the internet. So Woods was the first one to join us. See, that's messed up because we did have other people joining us early and it all got deleted, I guess. So thanks to the folks who joined us earlier, and there's no way for me to find their data, I guess, or their names. But my gun is out there. Somebody up his lives just before this. Thanks for joining. And Tristan out there. If anybody else is out there, say hey. Otherwise, how do we know you're out there? All right, so digging into it. It is episode 1675. We've been doing this show for a little while. Of course, it evolves over time. It changes a little bit. We're about to head over to SHOT Show and we'll get some ideas to change things up even more. So hopefully, if we can get that, we can find some people that are down with that at SHOT Show. Then we'll see some new things going into season 9 here. Starting out season 9 this year. We post this here on wherever you're watching this on, one of the podcast platforms, no doubt, or YouTube. And we also take the stuff we're reading here, the description of the YouTube video, what we're talking about, put that on Patreon. Our Patreons are the people that subscribe to what we're doing, help us literally keep going. Our newsletter, occasionally. Substack is what we're looking at right now, a lot better formatting than YouTube. And then Instagram. And on Wednesdays, we do a show focused just on Instagram. So we'll take a look at the news of the week. We'll take a look at the stuff on YouTube that was focused on our Second Amendment. We'll take a look at the stuff on YouTube that was focused on guns. And then we'll take a look at some of the radio shows that are out there, and then some of the military interviews that are out there. We'll take a look at the calendar, and then we'll take a look at some of the stuff that we posted this week. All right, getting into it at the beginning there, and of course, as we're going along, if you want to say something, feel free. It's now just joining us. Welcome. Let's see. Are you already out there, or are you fixing to be out there? For people that are
How about if I go to this one? Is that better? Dang it. Do we have to do this whole thing over again? There was no sound this whole time. Usually we get some kind of feedback if there's some kind of issue. So I gotta go find the show over here somewhere. Open it up and drag it over here. Open it up and drag it over here. I don't know, it sounds like I got sound going. Oh, I forgot we do have a poll going. It looks like the poll did happen. So we always have a poll on Fridays. How do you think the week went for the Second Amendment? Feel free to fill that out. And if you want, leave a comment on why you think that is. All right, well, I'm not doing the whole thing over again. So same thing I say every Friday. You know, we do the show. We thank our Patreons for making it possible for us to do it. We're trying to do things that other people ain't trying to do out here. And we post it in a bunch of places because that's what we're trying to do, is get this word out as often as, or as many places as we can to be as much use as we can over here. All right, so we started talking about the SIG doing their FFL letter, and I was saying about how, this is the time of year when SIG has kind of been thrashed around a little bit, and now they're being jerks and they won't even go to SHOT Show anymore, so it's hard for me to feel a lot of sympathy for SIG, but anyway, they sent out some kind of letter to FFLs about SIG braces, and, after this week, I don't even remember what the letter was about. So
we'll just touch on it like that. The Supreme Court heard two different arguments about, turns out they were specifically about fisheries in Maine and about some of the rules that they're applying to those people that go fishing. And with this, the reason that's important is when the Supreme Court determines the deal on that, so much of what the executive branch does will be either continue to be allowed, and it'll probably be leaned into, or it'll end. And right now, they're essentially being told that they can do whatever they want as long as they interpret the rules that way. And the Supreme Court is probably going to say, nah, we're sick of this. Every time the executive branch changes political winds, we have to start interpreting everything a different way, and that don't fly for the judicial branch because they don't have politics over there. They just want plain old laws that are laws all the time. So that should be a great stride towards making the laws more consistently applied, and regulation and enforcement more effectively enforced or whatever, or applied, I guess. And really looking forward to seeing that one. A lot of significance there. So hard to say it's a bad week when there's something like that happening. The only other thing that could be more important, I think, for currently would be the whole interstate commerce. Challenging interstate commerce would be pretty epic. Gunmetal guys joining us, welcome. Thanks again for the heads up about the sound. Sam's out there packing, he said. Hillbilly had a show before this one. I don't know if Tristan's still out there or not. I wish I would have known there was going to be a bad internet for an hour. I could have just taken a nap and woke up an hour later. Let's see. So then we have the 2022, 2-year ago reports that highlight a 24% growth in adult participating in shooting sports. Okay, but from 2009 to 2022. So whenever I see dumb numbers being used, I wonder why they're handpicking those numbers. So 29 to 22. What are those numbers? Why not an easier number to deal with? 12 to 22, 10-year span. Why not 2002 to 22, a 20-year span? Why some number that's dumb? So I don't know why they picked that. It's probably the years of growth, but whatever. Expanding public lands, and then, great. So 24% growth in adult participating in sports shooting. I mean, that is pretty epic if that's truly the case. Epic public lands outdoor recreation experience, which turns into Explore Act, which is HR 6492, which, see, it's tough. I'm not able to read all these things, but this little guy is exhausted. He went outside, pooped twice today, and that means he had to eat 3 or 4 times today, and it's just a lot of work for a little guy like this. Anyhow, so this expanding public lands outdoors recreation experiences Explore Act, it says that it's going to gain access and do things that help sportsmen, but I never trust anybody, so I'm always wondering what that means. I don't like to be summarized. I want to know what exactly it does. I'm a big fan of wilderness, even though a lot of people don't like them. And I know a lot of times big recreation wants to just wail on wilderness. One of the things that makes the United States what it is we didn't destroy all of our nature. Canada has 5% of its natural growth, or its original growth forests. We at least kept some of that stuff. And, since we already have some of that stuff, I'd rather keep it than just destroy it. So I'm not necessarily going to love every public lands thing that comes along, but NSSF says it's good, so take that for what it's worth. Then there's 2 more. This one is called the Tribe. I forget, somebody in Iowa? I forget who brought these up. Tribal Firearms Access Act, which kind of looks like it goes in the right direction of telling Indian nations that they're their own nations and leaving them alone. Either we're leaving them alone as their own nation or we're not, but I don't know why we're coming up with rules for them We're telling them, hey, you have your own nation. It just happens to be here. We'll leave you alone. Then leave them alone. Don't do whatever they're going to do. But I'm pretty sure this allows the different nations to regulate firearms on their own. So, I mean, it's good, but it's also scary because they're kind of anti-gun sometimes. Some of them ain't. Some of them are super pro-gun. So, kind of just as a nation-by-nation basis, I guess. It could do us a lot of good to focus on that. We have a real resource there, a natural resource, so to speak. Then we have the Travelers Gun Rights Act, a bill that would allow law-abiding RV-ers, active duty military spouses, and others who rely on P.O. boxes for their primary mailing addresses to obtain a firearm. Good, I guess, but at the same time, how about we don't have more laws? How about we remove the dumbass laws that say you have to have an address anyway, because who cares? Criminals already have guns. What are we going to do by making some fantasy law that says the government's going to know who owns all the guns? We're going to have all their addresses. So what? That's stupid. The government knows everybody who drives a car. They know where the car lives, but guess what? Car accidents still happen. So this theater that the government needs to know where all the guns are is garbage. And I don't really like bills, more laws that mean we just have to fight for something else. We have to waste our time printing this thing. We have to worry about representatives wasting their time and their staff's time. I mean, yes, we need to make laws that fight their BS, but let's fight them with erasers instead of with more laws. Let's erase laws that suck and challenge them from adding new ones, but we don't win by putting more rules on our side. At least that's my opinion. And then we got New Mexico. So I think New Mexico is Beto, the Beto of last election cycle. I'm going to come and get your guns or whatever. I'm coming for your AR-15s. He was the sacrificial gun control. What's the word? Like canary? Like they needed to test how much gun control they could push that year. And this is what she's doing. She's over here being a state level canary, 2A canary, gun control canary, being a tyrant, seeing how much crap she can get away with while and then they gauge how much we're going to pay attention, how unified we are, how consistent we are, how much we pay attention. Like if we're ignoring her, I'm sure they're going to push this kind of crap all over the country. If we get all behind it and get upset, they win because they stopped us from paying attention to something else. But, I'm not saying it's easy. We have a lot of challenges here. We have to not worry about what she's doing, at the same time challenge what she's doing, and then do the same for Massachusetts and Oregon and Washington and California and Connecticut and probably Rhode Island, I forget. And Connecticut, for sure. Vermont, I think, is getting a little smashed around. Maine is getting reactionary gun control. So we've got to get better at standing behind these states. And New Mexico is right now being the one who's like, you know what? Everybody else is doing what you expect. Let's throw something else out there. She's the Beto. All right, now we can talk about, and there's probably a lot of other stuff. I only had a little bit of time this week. It's been a pretty tough week. So thanks everybody for patience with that. I'm not trying to be your only source of info here, but hopefully I'm discovering things that other, aren't as interesting. So maybe other people aren't jumping on them. There's certainly nothing exciting happening this week that I know of. Other than the Supreme Court potentially changing that Chevron deference bullshit. So, moving into 2A stuff. And I see Gizzard is out there. Did I say hey to Gizzard? Oh, and Ozzy's out there. Welcome. It's super cold. I'm putting my heater back on. So, we'll take a pause. And of course, tonight's heater is called what is this thing? It's a Lasco. With the buttons on the top over here. Set it to the temperature and you can oscillate it. Oh, it's amazing. It's the ceramic tower heater in the ivory white color. It's as if someone slaughtered something that has ivory, like an elephant, and whittled it into a ceramic heater so that I could ignore it and just have it on the floor over here. It's amazing. All right, so VCDL, Virginia Citizens Defense League, had their lobby day on Monday. They videotaped some of it, streamed some of it live. Oh my goodness. I gotta drink some coffee. Hold on. A lot of people are asking, is it Gizzards' modem that is giving you trouble earlier? Yeah, it was Gizzards' modem. Yeah, he's going to Vegas. He doesn't even care about the modem that he pawned off on me for free. He paid to send it to me, and I'm using it for free, and now it's not working. I'm just saying that's how it worked out for me. Still owe him for that modem though. Maybe I'll give him some. I'll pay him back for that modem. He'll get what's coming to him in Vegas for that modem. Let's see. So then we got the Virginia Citizens Fence League is coming up. Then we have what is almost always the number one thing each week, Suicide Prevention Saturday, where Brooke Cheney talks about a consistent conversation talking about mental health awareness and prevention of suicide. Two things that are critical for our conversations amongst ourselves for a couple of reasons. Also conversations with the other side. Once we're more comfortable talking about this stuff, we more normalize conversations about mental health. Just like anything, if we're able to talk about it comfortably, it becomes part of our awareness and it's less of an issue. When we don't talk about it and no one's paying attention to it, it can sneak up on us and get us. And we're silly to just let that happen. There's no need. We can talk about a broken arm. We can talk about a broken leg. Nobody has any concern. We want to talk about stress or anxiety. That's the difference. It's just another situation that we have as mammals dealing with all the stuff we deal with in society in 2024. So talking about that stuff helps us deal with it and creates a society where that kind of conversation is more normalized and I guess that stress and anxiety level comes down. So hopefully we eliminate some of the stuff that causes some of the issues, but if we can't, at least we can have more useful conversations about it, have effective conversations about it. We all know that the other side stands on numbers that exist only because they include suicide, and they have no policies at all or any solutions that address suicide other than to suggest if you take away one dangerous item, suicide will go away, and that's foolish. So by illustrating that and by being able to talk about it rationally, hopefully we can move on from this. I'm going to stand on my side of the line and they're going to stand on their side of the line, and we just yell our positions to each other. We understand each other's positions. We see them. Brooke provides opportunities for us to cross that line and have conversations with people in a more meaningful way. So it's an excellent project. Hopefully when she comes back from SHOT Show, she's able to grow and expand and more comfortably work on that project, because she definitely deserves the project, deserves it, and her consistent effort is definitely worth the support financially and through other means of the industry out there. A massive, massive industry is about to shift a ton of resources, financial resources, time resources, equipment, and attention. All these kind of resources are going to be shifted around this next week. And as much stuff that can be shifted over to projects like Brooke and Brooke specifically would be excellent. So if you're out there thinking about ways that things are going to change, Brooke is a change agent. Brooke is an instigator of change. She's out there cutting new ground. People that understand that are going to follow, and people that are truly aware are going to support her so that she can continue that effort, use her experience, and do it even more. We'll see. We can all champion Brooke's project by bringing it up. When we're talking to somebody and creating an opportunity for ourselves, we can say, hey, somebody else who, if you've got extra resources and you'd really like to work on something that's effective, I know somebody you might want to talk to, and then get Brooke on a conversation with those people. All right, speaking of your individual rights, an excellent episode of Forge of Freedom this week, where they talk about what are individual rights. It's something I've bring up every once in a while when we have interviews, shows, and always a topic I like to talk about. It's something that's hard to define, right? So because of that, a lot of people just take the concept for granted that we all are thinking the same thing, and we aren't always. And by bringing it up, by focusing on it, I think there's something to gain there. So I appreciate when people spend time talking about it. Next up is Four Boxes. He's probably in here a couple of times. This is where he's talking about that Chevron difference case. Does a pretty good job of explaining it. I think of all the people out there, he talks a little fast, but he's always trying to sell his books. But guess what? Capitalists are allowed to sell their books. And that's all he's doing. He ain't trying to get you to do nothing else except maybe, I guess, vote for him in the ripoff awards. But this is a pretty good description of what's been going on or what's happening on Tuesday. And then he talks about the Ukraine in this video. I put it up here because there's a chick holding onto an AK mag. Look how she's putting it in there like a spaz, though. So it's kind of an awkward-ass picture. Let's see. So next we got Sisters in Arms. Watched a couple of their shows. This one was the one with Mary. And yeah, great to see their season 2, I guess, starting off with their second episode. All right. Next up was Walk Talk America. Did their podcast. Is that Thursday morning? I think it was Thursday morning. I missed it. I am not paid by Walk the Talk America to post that link. I just post it because they are, again, trying to normalize the conversations about mental health awareness, and both inform and create awareness on the gun owner side, but also on the medical side, which then should eliminate some of the pressure we see from ignorant, unaware physicians. The Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network is an organization that's first. It was the first of the legal protection for concealed carry holders. That's the easiest way to say it. Some people will summarize it as insurance, or all of the legal protections out there as insurance, but of course they're not all insurance. Some of them are legal-ish. Some of them are like prepaid legal. And then Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network is a fund. So the network is a bunch of people that put in essentially $100 a year, sorry. And that pile of money, that millions of dollars that accumulated from a lot of people putting $100 a month into a pile, becomes a pool of cash that the network members can use if necessary. So it's not insurance, and it's not a legal, it's not having a lawyer on retainer. It's a third entity. It's a third thing that was created by Marty, who is a lawyer in Washington State. And it's unique, and it was the first. And then since it was created, all the other quote-unquote CCW insurance companies have been created. And then, of course, having a lawyer on retainer has always been a thing since the olden days. So this is a organization that provides a key role and a useful service for the community. And then as a part of their membership, they have these live, I guess they typically just answer questions for the most part, but then they'll also just talk about stuff. So it's kind of like a live newsletter. But the way that the network works is each of the components are actually not critical, but they're all a component of your coverage. So that if there's ever any issues with whether or not you've been uptrained or have knowledge of a skill set, the network has systems in place to be able to bring your level of knowledge to the jury of your peers in a pretty interesting way, using expert witnesses and online education that was available. So anyway, ACLDN, our Citizens Legal Defense Network, is a pretty cool organization if you want to check it out and watch their live streams. Anybody can watch the live streams. All right, next we're getting into the gun talk this week. We start off with She Fires. She has a show every Sunday if you want to check it out live. She talks about different things. In this episode 22, she talked about ride sharing, seeing as a bunch of people are about to go to Vegas and trust their lives to just some person that a computer telephone app thing tells them they should. Thanks for that. Then we have the Forge of Freedom again. This time they had a show talking about the Glock with his passing. They talked about his significance in the I guess, store your guns. Pretty good. Pretty good. They're not like Glock. What's the word? Like history buffs or nothing. But they both. Well, I think they both read the book, and they had a lot of insight about just from their experiences over the years. Voss, who hosts the overnight every other week on the weekend on Saturday nights, hosted the overnight last week. Episode number 80 turned out to be a pretty good episode, I think. I put this in the gun stuff, even though it's kind of a radio thing. But S2 Underground, if you haven't listened to it, it's a pretty interesting channel, and some guy who was probably Intel of some sort, and he does sort of a daily brief to let you know, kind of a situation report on the international scale of relevant news, sort of filtered down to be about a minute or two. It's very quick. Excellent news intel dump. But then, because he's a weather guy, he likes, or not weather, he's like a radio guy. He likes communications. He might have been a communication guy. A lot of the recent videos, at least, are focused on off-grid communications with, with or without different levels of infrastructure. And this one is kind of talking about the complexity of radios and the people that gather around that, and then how they're kind of dicks, and they make it kind of unwelcoming to people that are trying to figure it out. But at the same time, it's not like there's an easy road and everybody's guarding it. It's just a pain in the ass to learn all the radio stuff. And some people don't want that. Some people want an easy road, and they think that people that already know it went down some easy road, and it gets to be an annoying little back and forth, with any kind of technical thing. We see it with the computer sometimes as well, but with radio, since there's a bit of, some people got told to go to school for it, some people went to school for it, and some people just have a natural interest in it. It's really frustrating for people that have to learn it. So anyway, it's a unique thing, and S2 does a great channel. Let's see, I guess I'll only talk about one thing from Dragon Man. His museum is set to open on April 14th, so you can set your calendars. You remember, we live in an era where you can go hang out at Dragon Man's museum and get dragged around the museum by Dragon Man. This is epic. This is unique. There's nothing at all ever been like this before, and I don't know, could there ever even be anything like this again? Dragon Man has an interest, and he was around for Vietnam. And he had parents that were around for World War II. He has an understanding and a history of understanding World War II that a lot of us younger people are never going to have, because my grandparents were around for it, but they were only going to tell their grandkids certain things, or were only able to. I was only able to ask certain questions. But Dragon Man, in his lifespan, has covered an interesting segment of our history. And he's decided to collect and accumulate a massive, unique, amazing collection. And there's just no possible way. This is all the kind of stuff that the Smithsonian's going to drop into crates and put into, some building somewhere if they had ever had control of this. There's just no museum that would ever bother to put the stuff out that Dragon Man has accumulated and shares. And then he shares it with a passion that's completely unique, and it's completely honest, and it's just super enthusiastic. He's the coolest dude ever, just a real dude. So we live in a time with Dragon Man, and you can either decide to go to Dragon Man's next year, or this year, I guess, or put it off and again, because if Dragon Man will be there forever, right? You'll just always be able to go to Dragon Man's. It'll always just be there. Our grandkids will know about Dragon Man's, and they'll be like, oh yeah, no big deal. We'll go there whenever. Or you could realize that we live in a time with Dragon Man. You can go over there and check out Dragon Man's. Talk about an epic adventure. I can only tell you because I've been there like 5 times. It's awesome. Like every single time, it's fun. And there's been some other stuff. He just did an epic Instagram talking about his Harley machining facilities. He's a super cool dude. Another cool dude, Kristen740, posted a video sharing a stream from Spectre Solutions did their 1000ing. Some days back in the day, we would 1,000 this channel. So a channel would just be minding its business, and we would pull it up to 1,000. Somebody would go live and pull the channel over to 1,000. Nowadays, the kids, they get to 1,000 and then they celebrate. Everybody's got to do it their own way. But, anyway, so that was Chris's show. Then we got AR Guns, I guess he calls himself. I forget what he calls himself now. AR Patriot or something like that. Anyway, we all know AR Guns is posting streams on the fairly regular, a couple of them this week. Fridays is his main days, and then every once in a while he'll do those coffee shows. Speaking of every Wednesday night, what? Yep, the Wednesday night mouse party is back. So it started this Wednesday. That means it means no overnight this week. There will be an overnight during SHOT Show, and then no overnight the weekend after SHOT Show. Or the 2 weeks after SHOT Show. But the mouse party's every Wednesday, so you can start looking forward to that. It is overnight, so again, like this show, Foss appreciates people that do stuff overnight, that are awake in the middle of the night, getting things done, getting things made. I know a lot of people that listen to my show, at least, are listening to it as a podcast. I don't think Foss does his as a podcast. But yeah, if you are listening to this in the middle of the night and you know other people that are awake and might appreciate it, let them know. I mean, I'm not paying for advertising, so you helping me out, let people know, is about all I got going for us. So appreciate it if you would. Let others know who you think might like this show. Speaking of that, go live every once in a while with Matt and Yankee still from back in the day. And Yankee did one of his shooting left to centers this week, so we went live with him. And Matt. Those guys are always interesting to talk to say the least. Then we've got the radio shows that we listen to. There's a couple of them. I also had Gun Owners Radio on here. They had a really cool conversation with the people from Front Sight, which is now called something else. All right, I forgot what it's called. And I couldn't put it in here because I didn't put it in here because I forgot. But the San Diego Gun Owners hosts a radio show on Sunday afternoons, just after she fires, called Gun Owners Radio. And they record it, they stream it live, and you can listen to it live, but then they delete it, and they post it as separate pieces, and that's where I got mixed up and didn't post it in here. But definitely worth checking that out. It's Prairie Fire, that's the name of the thing. Go check out the conversation with Mike and the trick shooter, who's their spokesperson from Prairie Fire. And it's the people that bought the facility that was Front Sight. So if anybody knows or doesn't remember, Front Sight is a facility in Nevada. So if you look at the tip of Nevada, Las Vegas is down in the little point in a weird looking shape, like a V kind of part of Nevada. And if you go across Nevada from where Vegas is towards California, you hit Pahrump. And it's just kind of the town that you hit before you get to California as you're going west from Las Vegas into California. And essentially you come out of Pahrump and go to Los Angeles, I think. But you can go north from Pahrump and you get to Area 51 that everybody hears about with the aliens. So Pahrump is kind of out next to Area 51. And it's just kind of, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but it's the middle of nowhere. A lot of public land on the California side, and I suspect a lot of public land on the New Mexico side, or at least it's undeveloped land for sure. So it's just out there in the middle of nothing that's developed, and it's kind of flat, but it slopes down into California, and this giant chunk of land that you can see from space, like a lot of property was owned by Front Sight, and they used it for an elaborate number of shooting ranges, tons of them. Is many, many, many acres. If it's not hundreds of acres, it's a huge place. They developed a good chunk of it over the years, and they sort of did it, I don't want to say a pyramid scheme. They were, Scientologists ran it, or the guy who ran it was a Scientologist, if that means anything, or if it matters. And he ran it in a way that a lot of people really liked and a lot of people hated and a lot of people were skeptical of. And the instruction was essentially copied from Gun Sight, which the name of the place, Front Sight, was ripped off from Gun Sight. So that part of it, right off the bat, bothered a lot of people. So the name and the curriculum were essentially taken from Gun Sight verbatim and then hardly ever modified or adopted over time. So it was very Weaver stance, very Weaver centric type of, very Cooper centric type of shooting instruction, which is valid, but it's very rigid. So it works, but some people hate it. And so there was enough things about Front Sight that people hated that it was essentially, you had to really like it. You had to really dig it and want to go there, or you had to be brand new and not have experienced anything else yet to really like Front Sight. So it eventually failed. And some people would say it failed. Some people would say it was like run out of business by its customers, or some people would say by the people who were trying to, there's all kinds of stories. So you're going to have to go figure out whose story you want to listen to and believe. I don't know if there's any true story of it or, whatever. But it is what it is, and it's gone, or it was gone for a while. And now that it's 2 years later, we're hearing, what the people who bought it are planning on doing. And long story sort of short is you can be a member for $45 a month. And as a member, you can go out there anytime you want. And if you're not a member, it costs you, I forget, $100 or something. No, not $100, $50 a day or something to go out there. So where before you had to be a member or else you couldn't even step foot on the place, pretty much. Now you can, it's more like a public range with membership. And then they also offer instruction for $100 a day, which, is a pretty interesting price point for, that. And it's close enough to California that they could probably cater to people in California and do all right. So it's interesting to listen to that conversation. People that were curious about this probably the largest shooting school that isn't the NRA. The NRA has the largest shooting school in New Mexico. The one near Red Dawn. But this one in New Mexico or in Nevada was pretty darn big. Not anywhere near as big as the one in New Mexico, though. Raton, what is that thing called? Oh man, can't think of the name. The Winchenoxter? No, I can't think of the name. Anyhow, the other radio show that I do each week is the Rapid Fire Radio on out of Massachusetts. Toby does the show on Tuesdays with Grace Curley. Wednesdays, he does the 2-hour show on YouTube. And then on Sundays, you can listen to the radio show now. So there's a radio show, a literal radio show on Sundays. And that happens noon on Sundays, I think, in Pacific time. So whatever time that works out for you. Hillbilly saying he's taking off, throwing some wood on the fire, and does go into SHOT Show. Have a good time. Be safe. Will do. Thanks for the saying hey. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Let's jump over to guncalendars.com. So I didn't have time to post the stuff over here, but we did post everything over on Gun Calendars for the next little bit. So as it pops up here, you can see that today nothing happened, but yesterday we had a rally in Iowa. I don't know how many people talked about the 2A rally in Iowa yesterday. Gabby Franco was the star of that rally. Robert Control was born yesterday, gun writer. We had Neil Knox passed away earlier this week, grassroots activist and writer. We had Horace Smith also passed away earlier this week. Of course, Martin Luther King Day on Friday. On Monday, and same day as the Virginia Citizens Defense League rally. Christopher Spencer from the Spencer Rifle passed away earlier this week. And the other news we've got, the 40 caliber Smith & Wesson was debuted on Wednesday of this week, back in 2000 and or no, 1990. What am I saying? And then back in 2005, we started Gun Websites on tomorrow. So tomorrow is Gun Websites' birthday. It'll be whatever that is, 19 years old tomorrow. Then we have the Military Act, the Dick Act of 1903, the anniversary of that coming up. We have the John Browning's birthday coming up on Tuesday. It's also the date that Elijah Collier died, and I forget who that is. We got a bunch of different events posted about SHOT Show, or that are happening at SHOT Show. There's also more things happening that I haven't added. I don't know if I'll have a chance to add them or not. We've got the ANMI show, which is Army Navy Military Expo before SHOT Show, and then we've got the Antique Gun Show after SHOT Show. I try to attend both of those if I can every year. And then we have a couple more anniversaries of inventors and instructors who were either born or passed away later on in the week. That's the kind of stuff we post over there, as well as up at the top of the screen, you'll find things like all the different events that are going on. Either rallies or laws, or either training events or community events. We've got shooting events in here, as well as giant gun shows and industry events. Of course, we all know SHOT Show's happening next week. That'll take a bunch of news from a bunch of people. But people that are paying attention, who are not paying attention to SHOT Show, or some of the military shows that are out there, I'm sure most of those shows are all pre-recorded and get posted ahead of time. So even if they do go to SHOT Show, their schedules aren't going to be interrupted. So we've got one of my favorites is Combat Story, and they had a part 2 with this guy, Brent. Great conversation, worth listening to for sure. He also started a coffee company and a cigar company, and I personally find it interesting to listen to people who exceeded in their jobs doing just either super difficult, interesting, or both, super difficult jobs in the military, and then when they come out and pursue, those same traits and abilities that they had to do those kind of jobs, they apply towards capitalism. It's always fun to see, how they apply it and how much success they have and how they're able to do it. The Team House had the CIA guy on. I only barely listened to it today. I was listening to other things and doing things, so I didn't get to hear most of it. I'll listen to that one later. There were a couple other things that we could probably post in here. Mike Drop had Combat Story on as part 2, where he talks about most of his CIA operations, and I'll be talking about that one more. It just happens to coincide with SHOT Show, so it's kind of annoying being busy or whatever, but definitely worth exploring. One of the coolest things, as I just mentioned, that I find listening to these veterans now, most of these guys enlisted in like 2001, which they're not my grandkids, but I mean, holy moly, some of us enlisted in the 80s, so we were done by 2001. We were almost too old to be pulled back in. I mean, a couple of people were, but for the most part, these are different people, and definitely had different situations, different jobs and stuff, doing different stuff with different tools, and coming out, transitioning out is just totally different for them. And because they had such difficult jobs, both physically and things to endure, their transition out of the military is unique and difficult. More difficult for sure than a lot of people served during the Cold War, when you didn't do nothing except get discouraged by how bureaucracy is worthless and fat and bloated. It's different than having to go in and have a bureaucracy tell you to go stand in front of bullets and be bloated, right? So you just come out with a different mindset, a different set of situations. So it's frustrating to hear some of the stories. Of course, we know that, talked earlier about the suicide situation in the United States. the politicians who are the most anti-rights and our property are the ones who either have no policy for dealing with the situations that creates the situation of suicide, or they're well, they usually just have nothing, but they typically, if they do have a solution, it's take away one dangerous piece of property. You can guess which dangerous piece of property exclusive they want to remove from society. But that's their solution, when we all know that the solution is obviously more than that. So Ryan, the guy from Combat Story, being interviewed by Mike, the guy from Mic Drop, was talking about trust and safety, which is a department of the technology industry that gives people who have been fighting, let's say fighting in the military, gives them an opportunity to continue hunting, but in this case, not jumping out of a helicopter and hunting, but figuring out how to find and pursue illegal, horrible shit that happens online. Let's just leave it at that. Horrible shit that happens online, and you can understand what I'm trying to get to here. That kind of stuff is persistent. The fuckers that do that shit are asshole, horrible people, and they have to do their shit in the dark, and they do it wherever they possibly can. It's gross, and it's almost always illegally. Well, it's always illegally, but they do it in unscrupulous ways. So anyway, they have to be found. They don't just lay their shit down. So in other words, the people that hunt them have very similar, or the skill sets that are necessary to have the interest, the appetite to hunt these people is essentially exactly what a lot of veterans are coming out with, that skill set. So it's not necessarily a match made in heaven, but it is people that come out of the military with a particular set of skills may be able to use those skills in an effective way that provides both a use to the world, right, and gives them some way to transition back to, in this case, a technological industry, and then back into society in a way, again, from jumping out of helicopters to still accomplishing important tasks in a way and getting the satisfaction of hunting. So anyway, just a great conversation. Talked a little bit about that. I hope to have Ryan on at some point to talk about that even more. Super interesting. Sounds like such a potential there to not just kill two birds with one stone, but to solve two critically important issues effectively. And that's what it's all about. Anyway, so some really good stuff this week on the military interview shows. Can't recommend them enough. There's so much more going on there than just the stories of adventure and frustration that you have in military stories, but there is tons of stories like that too that happen. All right, so we post some stuff each week. One thing I do is maybe go live for maybe 4 or 5 hours each week just to listen to the dog snore. Just a dog snoring stream. The dog is willing to fall asleep for those 4-hour sessions and just be recorded live streaming, snoring. So you might want to check one of those out. Also, got this camera. Posted about that, I guess. Did a show with Tony on Saturday. Did the Ask Anything type of thing. I still to figure out what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We did a show unboxing the Mint mobile thing that I signed up for from Combat Story. We just talked about Combat Story and how they're how Ryan is helping to give veterans an opportunity to transition out of the military and the mindset of being in the military through hunting down and taking out bad actors on the internet, and in collaboration with the big industries out there, Google and the big ones. So in appreciation, he does a thing with Mint Mobile, a telephone company, where you get 3 months of unlimited service for $15 a month. So $45 for 3 months. Seems like a pretty good deal since my telephone's like $100 a month. So I tried this out. So far I've had it for a few days. I really like it. Mint saw that I did this video and sent me a bunch of shit, they said. So I'll have a bunch of Mint stuff coming in the mail, I guess. So that's cool. So if you do one of these things and you use Ryan's what do you call it, code or whatever, I recommend it. He gets probably a cut of that. Post about it. Maybe Mint will say hey to you as well. The channel I did that on isn't super huge. All right, well, that's it. I guess at the end of everything now, StreamYard lets you know the system I'm using for this whole thing that lets me bring up like Pat's post over here. And by the way, welcome, Pat. Thanks for joining us. That is StreamYard, the thing that lets me bring Pat's thing up on the screen, the thing that puts me back in, the thing that lets me put the puppy up on the screen like this. Now, poking the puppy, that's me. But the thing that lets me put the puppy on the screen over here, that's StreamYard. If you want to use that, if you want to check it out, use that link at the bottom of our streams, and StreamYard will give you $10 and they'll give that puppy $10. So it's a pretty win-win situation there. If you sign on, it's $25 a month, so not everybody's going to do it. But if you're doing streams like this, come on, this is definitely the one to use, because I've used all the other ones and they all are really tedious and complicated, and StreamYard is the least of that. Vulcan is out there. Welcome. And again, apologize to the folks who were trying to watch this thing live. We had bad internet. It's the puppy's fault. Puppy's job is to make sure that the show runs smoothly, to script everything and have all the technology ready to go. And instead, he just sits here sleeping. Sometimes, if I'm eating, he'll look at me. But otherwise, he just sits here sleeping. And that isn't getting his job done. So that's why the show was an hour late. I won't apologize for him. I'll just blame him. All right, so with that, we'll wrap this one up and recommend that tomorrow. Wait, is there a suicide prevention Saturday tomorrow? I guess one easy way to find out would be just to scroll back up to Brooke's link, this link right here, and then go to her channel, which you might want to check out. It's called A Great Start Shooting School. Then, if you go over to her live tab, oh, I don't see anything scheduled, so there may not be a live show tomorrow, which, it's not, whatever. So anyway, you can check that out. Tomorrow, Hillbilly Up will probably, even though he went to sleep, he'll probably be doing a show tomorrow. Check that out. Oops. And there's no overnight tomorrow, so that means you're going to be your first Saturday night in a long time without anybody to chat with. I don't know if anybody else out there has anything else to say. Otherwise, we'll quit scrolling. I guess I'm not even scrolling on the screen anyway. You're just looking at puppy, but I didn't realize. So we'll wrap this one up. Is there anything else for me to do over here that I could do? Nah, not really. Looking for any toys or anything I got around here, and I don't got nothing. So we're done. We'll wrap this one up. We'll say thanks to Pat, thanks to Hillbilly, thanks to Michael, thanks to Vulcan, thanks to Gizzard, who should be sleeping by now. Thanks to Ozzy, Michael, I already said, I think, and Snob, and Justin, and I think that's everybody. Woods probably went to sleep a long time ago. Have a good one, and we'll be back tomorrow. Throw a commercial up here for our store. I want to say thanks again to Foss for making this commercial for us.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at gearwebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at gearwebsites.com.
Cheat. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America.